Hello, Katie.
Hello, we are now live.
Thank you very much. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending this virtual meeting of the Hampshire Pension Fund Panel of Board. This meeting is being webcast on YouTube via the County Council website. All decisions at today's meeting will be reached through a vote. I will call for the vote at the appropriate time under each item, with the vote and outcome read audibly by the Democratic Support Officer. I will begin by reading the names of members on the committee so they can confirm their attendance for the public record. Members, please unmute and confirm your attendance when your name is called, so we can ensure that you can be heard. I am Mark Kempchey, and I am chairman of the panel, and Mr. Tom Thacker, vice chairman.
Good morning, Chairman.
Councillor Christopher Carter.
Good morning, Chairman. Confirmed I'm here.
Councillor Alan Dowden. Councillor Dowden.
Councillor Dowden isn't showing yet, Chairman.
Okay, he may show later. Councillor Andrew Gibson.
Yes, I'm here, Mark.
Councillor Jonathan Glenn.
Present and correct, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Joy. Councillor Peter Latham.
Morning, Mark. Yes, I'm here.
Thank you, Councillor Latham. Councillor Bruce Tennant.
Present, Chair.
Good morning, Councillor Tennant.
Good morning.
Councillor Cal Corkery from Portsmouth.
Good morning, Chair. Present.
Good morning, Councillor Corkery. Councillor Paul Taylor. Councillor Paul Taylor. Dr. Cliff Allen. Dr. Allen. Ms. Liz Bartle.
Present, Chair.
Good morning, Ms. Bartle.
Morning.
Ms. Lindsay Gowland.
Good morning, Chairman.
Good morning, Ms. Gowland. As observer today, Ms. Sarah Manchester.
Yes, good morning. I'm present.
Good morning, Sarah. Mr. Neil Wood.
Morning, Chairman. Present.
Good morning, Mr. Wood. And Carol Ann Dobson. I think Carol Ann is around, who's our independent advisor, as you know. Right, well, there were a few gaps there, but Katie has confirmed from Democratic Services that we are quorate. And I'm now going to commence the meeting with item 1 on your agenda, members, which is the apologies for absence. Now, I have apologies from Councillor Andrew Joy, sadly because of a family bereavement, is unable to join us this morning, so apologies from him. And I have no other apologies. Do Democrats? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Chairman. I've just had apologies from Councillor Barnes-Andrews come through this morning.
Right, Councillor Barnes-Andrews from Southampton Unitary Council, for just to remind members, is the substitute member this year for the Unitary's Authority. The seat is held this year by Portsmouth Unitary Authority, and if Councillor Corkery from Portsmouth was not here, then normally Councillor Barnes-Andrews would substitute, but I think at the moment we have neither of them here, and we've just heard that Councillor Barnes-Andrews will not be here.
Sorry, Chair, I am present.
Sorry, I'm so sorry, of course you are. I apologise, Councillor Corkery. Of course you are. Okay, well, that is noted. With no
Chairman,
other...
it's Caroline. I am here. I was on another computer hearing, but I couldn't speak, so I've re-logged in on a second one, and that seems to work. So computer fairies.
It's very good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Item 2 on the agenda is declarations of interest. Members, please declare any conflicts of interest you may have now or when we reach the appropriate item. Thank you for that. Item 3 on the agenda is the confirmation of the non-exempt minutes of the meeting held on the 25th of September. And I'm just going to walk you through the pages, member. On your agenda pack, page 5, page 6, page 7, and that, I think, is the limit of the non-exempt minutes. Members, can I ask you whether the minutes of the meeting held on the 25th of September are agreed?
Agreed, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed. We now move on to item 4, deputations. And members, this morning we have a deputation from Mr. James Miller from Winchester Extinction Rebellion, who is speaking about fossil fuel divestment. Mr. Miller, thank you for coming, and you have 10 minutes in order to address the Pension Fund panel and board, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is James Miller. I'm the Group Coordinator for Extinction Rebellion Winchester. I'm here today representing the Dirty Money Campaign Group, which is entirely focused on the investment activities of the Hampshire Pension Fund and wider access pool. Our group is comprised of environmental campaigners, industry experts, and Hampshire Pension Fund members. We expect the Hampshire Pension Fund to be using the power of pension assets to cut our global carbon footprint and thereby secure against stranded assets and influence a transition away from a carbon-based society. According to recent research, making our pensions sustainable is 27 times more efficient in reducing carbon footprints than making individual lifestyle changes. Guy Opperman, the Minister for Pension and Financial Inclusion, talks about letting loose the productive power of our pensions to reach net zero. The Hampshire Pension Fund annual report and responsible investment statement shows that the fund has begun to make some progress in accordance with the requirements of environmental, social and governance principles, having moved 13% of equity investments into a climate tracker fund that favours lower carbon emissions. We're aware that the fund has also employed a responsible investment consultant to help managers improve its understanding of and adherence to ESG principles. However, we find it unacceptable that the resulting report has not been communicated to the fund members or indeed to the public. In October of this year, the Responsible Investment Subcommittee meeting expressed a desire to be as transparent as possible about reporting of ESG issues. Therefore, it is expected that the annual report provided to its members should contain a clear climate position statement. Members of the Pension Fund have previously requested that the fund start to develop their investment reporting in line with the Task Force for Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, something that the Department of Pensions itself will mandate for in the upcoming pension scheme bill currently progressing through Parliament. The Bank of England has stated that every professional financial decision we need to take into consideration climate change in order to keep in line with the Paris Agreement goals of limiting our temperature increases to 1.5 degrees. The pension fund has the ability to look after its members' financial future and at the same time use its influence to make a positive impact on the world. There is no longer a reason to believe that excluding all fossil fuel investments damages investment performance. In fact, renewable and sustainable investments present many investment opportunities. There are now numerous models and examples of how pension funds can make a transition towards sustainable investments, such as the Net Zero Asset Owner Alliance. The Net Zero Asset Owner Alliance is an international group of 30 institutional investors delivering on a bold commitment to transition their investment portfolios to net zero greenhouse gases by 2050. It comprises insurance and pension funds, including Aviva and the Church of England. Representing $5 trillion of assets, the Alliance demonstrates investors aligning their portfolios with a 1.5-degree scenario, addressing the Article 2.1c of the Paris Agreement. Convened by the UN Environmental Programme Finance Initiative and Principles of Responsible Investment, the Alliance is also supported by WWF and is part of the Mission 2020 campaign. The Alliance's chair, Günther Thallinger, a board member of the financial services company Allianz, said, Alliance members start out by changing themselves and then reach out to various companies to work on the change of their businesses. Reaching net zero is not simply reducing emissions and carrying on with the business models of today. There are profound changes and opportunities that will come from the net zero economy. We see new business opportunities and strong wins for those that are ready to lead. Analysis by the respected German group Reich concludes that investments in European companies with goals aligned to the Paris Climate Agreement have outperformed the market as a whole by more than 60%. In 2019, Mark Carney warned that the global financial system is financing industries and activities that will raise the global temperature to 4 degrees and above pre-industrial levels, which is wholly inconsistent with life as we know it. He said climate change could make vast reserves of oil, gas, and coal literally unburnable. It is therefore not only financially prudent to divest from companies that are driving climate change, but equally a moral imperative. Every day that we do not act, we are failing ourselves and more critically our children and grandchildren. Hampshire Pension Fund has a duty to play its role in tackling this existential crisis. The Dirty Money campaign calls upon the Hampshire Pension Fund to 1. Produce a position statement on managing its portfolios to align with the Paris Agreement of limiting our temperatures to 1.5 degrees C. 2, to create a strategy and timeline for achieving this alignment. 3, to report in plain English, consult and be advised by its members on its investment principles and how they are achieved. And 4, call on all members of the Access Pool to become members of the Net Zero Asset Alliance. Our campaign intends to work tirelessly with pension members and our partners such as Unison in order to ensure that the Hampshire Pension Fund and wider Access Pool not only align with the Paris Agreement, but also provide complete transparency on this journey to achieve that. Finally, I would like to draw your attention to a recent Australian lawsuit, McVeigh versus Rest, in which a pension fund member took legal action against his pension fund for failing to act on climate-related financial risks. The fund committed to an investment portfolio compatible with net zero carbon emissions by 2050 and a range of short-term measures as a result of the lawsuit. Hampshire Pension Fund and the wider Access Pool would do well to anticipate the potential for legal action to be taken in a similar vein by any of its members. Thank you for your time.
Councillor Kempjee, you're on mute at the moment.
I was just saying thank you to Mr. Miller for giving that deputation this morning. Members, we now move on to item 5, which is Chairman's announcements. And members, I'd like to first of all thank officers and colleagues from our IT department and Democratic Services who made such a success out of our virtual annual employers meeting 10 days ago. I know that Andrew Burflower has circulated a YouTube link, so you can watch proceedings at your leisure. A great deal of time and effort went into preparing for that meeting, and it was marvellous that we had over 100 employers present. We had some very good questions, I think it's fair to say. Our questions seemed to flow more readily in a virtual setting, which was interesting, and I hope they were all answered appropriately. Certainly it was very informative, and it was excellent news that we were able to receive about recent estimates suggesting that the pension fund has moved into surplus. We all know that one swallow does not make a summer, but certainly that's a very encouraging sign. And I know that we're all incredibly grateful to all those who worked so hard to make this possible. So to round up, thank you for all those who attended that. And again, my thanks to officers from our IT department and Democratic Services who enabled it to go without a hitch. And of course, thank you to all the presenters who performed splendidly on the day. I'm sure their contracts will be in the post. Moving on, members, it is a busy time of year for the pension fund and its membership. So I want to thank you for going with us on this journey, serving our 170,000 members, a time where we've been able, during these very difficult circumstances surrounding the pandemic, to continue paying out every month without fail, without interruption, over 45,000 pensions a month. This is a great comfort to all our pensioners. The stability and efficiency of the pension funds means a great deal to them. So a heartfelt thanks to all those responsible. We have a training day coming up on the 9th of December, I believe it is, and members, that should already be in your diaries. Thank you again for completing your training analysis and updating your training logs, to which we attach such importance. And that has given us an agenda for our training sessions going forward. We then also, of course, even before that, have our next meeting of the panel on board, which is on Friday, the 4th of December. So a busy time for us, as you will see. I have no further chairman's announcements. And so, members, have any of you attended any virtual training sessions over the past few weeks that you would like to draw to the attention of the panel and board?
I'd like to, Mark, Sandra Gibson. I've attended a couple of the ESP virtual conferences, and they were really, they've certainly got their act together on these virtual meetings now. The last one I went to was actually last week on the ESG markets, and it was really positive in the sense that China, now looking at going carbon neutral by 2060, are really investing heavily in sustainable projects. And what came out of that was that there are ESG funds now which are actually producing pretty good profits, and are a much more easy for people like ourselves to invest with now. And the technology is moving fast, and it was very, very positive presentation, and I would recommend anyone going to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Very much appreciated that you're attending those seminars. Anyone else, members?
We have Councillor Tennant, Chairman.
Yes, Councillor Tennant.
Chairman, yes, I've been attending the LGPS live events once a month. They've been very, very useful. I have taken notes of them, but I haven't got them all in front of me. But the thing that came to my, or the item that came to my attention in the most recent one on the 5th of November were the pensions dashboards. I think this is a really good idea to make people's pensions more easily accessible. I think that's it's due to be launched to the public soon. One of the other things that is mentioned quite often is the McLeod case that it's ongoing. And of course, I think responsible investment comes up in well, has come up in every meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Councillor Tennant. Yes, indeed. We heard, as you'll know, about McLeod from Aon Hewitt at the annual employers meeting. The scenario is still unfolding. What was interesting, and certainly my ears pricked up, and I'm sure yours did too, when they said that the impact in terms of reserving on the pension fund may not be very severe, but we still need more information. But it's nice to get that early wire, if you like, that perhaps it's not going to throw us off course in any material way. So that was helpful. But yes, thank you for all that. Councillor Tennant, I do appreciate your diligence in this area and for updating us. It's much appreciated. Thank you. And indeed, your knowledge of China is much appreciated. I know it's a particular interest of yours, and although we sometimes agonize about, perhaps correctly, about our own country's, jigsaw piece in this climate change scenario that is unfolding, I think we're all very aware, I'm right in saying, Councillor Tennant, that China is responsible, if you like, for something like 30% of global warming connections. Is that not right? I think.
I'm not aware of the actual percentage, but I think you're right. You're in the right ballpark area. However, they are doing an awful lot to mitigate those things. But with a population of 1.3, 1.4 billion people, it's quite difficult for them. But China, you're right. I'm very interested in China, but their level of democracy, which is not very high, makes it really. Well, it makes it interesting in some respects, but makes it difficult in others. And it was one of the things that I feel about China is with the ESG is that that we should be focusing more closely on China, but it is a very difficult one with our current economic model because China is the industrial heart of the planet. And so there are things that we might like to do that really probably are not viable at this moment.
No. Anyway, look, thank you for that. It's much appreciated. Members, if there are no more...
We have Councillor Glenn, Chairman. Apologies.
Sorry, Councillor Glenn.
Thank you, Chairman. Since the lockdown started, I've probably attended about 100 webinars with different companies, as you know. And what I'm doing is, I really haven't got time to write them all up. What I've been doing is sending the responses to these webinars to Gemma Farley. Once they've taken place, you always get a response saying, if you missed a certain webinar, here are the details. So I've sent them to Gemma, and if anybody wants to see or spend an hour at any of these webinars, then they can do so by contacting Gemma. The ones that really impressed me are JP Morgan. Their webcasts, they're about 2 every week. They only last about an hour. They're first class, and they give you a very good update on what is actually happening at that point. Some of the most interesting webinars have been on the US election and the effect that that will have, or certainly is having, on finances. You get people do ask questions, and you find that the answers are really quite fascinating. And having said that, can I echo the comments you made about the annual employers meeting? I thought the questions that came in were absolutely brilliant. There were employers there who really know their onions, and they really know how to ask questions which drill into the work of the fund managers. So thank you very much for that, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. Again, can I just extend to you my thanks and congratulations for your diligence in this area, and particularly to help form our archive of training, which you've been sending to Gemma. That's very helpful. So thank you for that, and we'll come back to that, no doubt, going forward. Members, can we now move on, please, to the to item 6 on the agenda, which is the minutes of the Responsible Investment Subcommittee held on the 20th of October. Members, I appreciate you weren't all there. The members are myself, Councillor Thacker, Councillor Joy and Councillor Corkery and Mr. Neil Wood. Actually, and we had apologies that day from Councillor Joy and Mr. Wood, I think it was. But anyway, those minutes are in front of you and for noting at this meeting. Members, are you happy to note those minutes? Yeah.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you very much indeed.
Chairman, apologies. Dr. Cliff Allen has joined us and he has his hand raised, as well as Councillor Corkery.
Right. Who was first, Katie?
Dr. Allen is showing first on the list.
Right. Good morning, Dr. Allen. Welcome.
You are
good
muted.
Good morning, sir. Sorry, I had difficulty joining the meeting. There was a problem with the link. Could I just make one comment about the area of communication? Because it just seems to me, Chair, that we need perhaps to consider doing just a little bit more on communication. You know, I note that there are very few correspondence received from 1,79,000 employees. And you know, this sort of is an area of concern because we seem to be very, very good at sending information out, but not receiving a great deal of responses back. And I wonder if we ought to perhaps do some more work on finding out some of the reasons why and remedying them, because it seems to me that our members, by their professional work and their culture, have a great interest in the ESG. You know, that they work professionally on maintaining our coastlines and our forests, etc. You know, they're interested in responsible investments through our democratic processes, etc. We have a workforce that's very committed to the environment, social care and governance in the community. Access itself serves 10.25 million residents in this field. Hampshire also has a huge, over 1 million people who these people serve. It's inconceivable that they don't have a view, they don't have some concerns about ESG, yet we don't seem to be able to access their views and concerns well. And I'm wondering what more that we can do about that.
Councillor Kempji, would you like me to confirm?
I was just going to ask you to comment on that, Dirk.
Thank you. Dr. Allen, just to confirm, that was a point of discussion at the Responsible Investment Subgroup. Exactly the same points were made around what can we do to improve and increase communication. We have the budget for the Pension Fund Panel and Board coming to the next meeting on the 4th of December, and it will be making proposals for the panel and board to consider regarding increasing communication resources and the cost of doing so. So the panel and board will be considering that in only a few weeks. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Dr. Allen, as you'll appreciate, it's a matter arising from those minutes rather than a comment on the accuracy of those minutes. So I've allowed you to say that because I'm always interested in your views and they're always very constructive. So thank you for that.
Thank you,
and
Chair.
more news at our next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, just as to the accuracy or the statement of those minutes, would they be noted, please?
Agreed. Noted and agreed.
Oh, sorry, we had one other. So did you say Councillor Dowden wanted to speak?
We have Councillor Corkery, Chairman, and Councillor Glenn, and also Dr. Allen has his hand raised again.
Ah, right. Councillor Corkery.
Thank you, Chair. It was just briefly to highlight another discussion that happened at the meeting, and that's with regards to what I think is becoming a common theme and has been kind of touched on in the deputation with regards to the information that is put into the public domain and the way in which those decisions are made, and I guess our understanding of the process and the criteria by which information is published or not. And I believe, I haven't got my notes in front of me, but I believe from memory that we discussed, perhaps agreed, to request that training be provided to board members in order to improve our knowledge processes in this regard.
Thank you for that. Director, do you want to comment on that point?
Yes, that was agreed at the Responsible Investment Subcommittee in terms of that request, and my understanding is that that is currently being included within the forward training plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Corkery. Are you happy with that answer?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Katie, we had Councillor Glenn, I believe. Councillor
Yes,
Glenn.
that's right.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman. Apologies for appearing again. I know I mentioned this before. It's a very important subcommittee, the Pension Fund Responsible Investment Subcommittee, and I agree with the training. If we've got councillors that can't make it for obviously very good reasons, I think we need to have a standing substitute ready to take their place, so that you do get a full quota for these meetings. It's not only good for us as a committee to be showing that we've got a full complement of people representing the members, but it's also good for successor planning, because this is a committee that rolls every year or whatever it is. They change the members, and I think it's important that we have successor training. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for that. Do we have Paul Hodgson with us, our Deputy Head of Legal? Paul, I think I can see you there. Would you like to comment on the substitute point raised by Councillor Glenn?
Thank you, Chairman. I think we already have substitute members set up for the committee. Councillor Glenn, were you suggesting sort of specific substitutes for the purposes of training, or?
Paul, I did use the training. I mean, for turning up at the meeting. The training, I agree with. I'm doing it anyway by going online all the time. But I think it's important that that there's a full complement, and in order to achieve that, you need to have standing substitutes who can take part. We do it on all our select committees. Whenever councillors can't attend for whatever good reason, if they're given us enough time, then you can get substitutes to take their place.
This may be one that we take away and just double check, but I think we do have deputies appointed to the panel and board already. So,
yeah. Paul, sorry to interrupt. I think we certainly do to the panel and board. The question here is, do we have formal substitutes appointed for this subcommittee?
I don't think we do.
We don't, Paul. Chairman, that's correct. There are not formal substitutes. So I would suggest, as Paul said, that we take this away and have a look at it before the next meeting, if that's acceptable.
Absolutely. I think, thank you. Councillor Jen, we'll certainly take that away, and I think it makes a lot of sense to do something about it. One proviso, of course, which you've touched on, Councillor Jen, and that is, of course, it is very helpful if people give us plenty of warning that they're not going to attend. That sometimes is a problem throughout the whole of the council, as you know. So there's no point having substitutes if we don't give them a chance to substitute, if you see what I mean. But thank you very much for that. Councillor Cliff Allen. Sorry, Doctor.
Thank you, Chair. It was just a suggestion in the training that I'm wondering whether we can, in fact, use some of the training that's already in existence corporately, for example, at induction and also on pre-retirement courses, to include something about both trying to listen and to inform on both those occasions as to what we're doing, and to try and access through listening to some of their concerns and views, so that we do begin to build some evidence to support our policies and our actions.
Chairman, if you would like me to chip in, all excellent ideas, and that's exactly why the suggestion at the Responsible Investment Committee was to get somebody with communication skills and knowledge to come and look at a comms strategy, which indeed would include all avenues of opportunity to engage with the broader membership. So assuming the panel and board wish to increase the budget in order to increase communications when they consider it at the next meeting, then we would be able to get somebody to get started on that. Thank you.
I think, Director, it's also important to point out it sounds as though we've been doing absolutely nothing at all in this respect, and that is totally not the case. Can I remind members that we sent out a strong invitation to engage with all the annual statements to retired members, as I recall. Is that not true, Director?
That's correct. Yes, I wouldn't want to give the impression that we haven't been doing anything. We have tried various different avenues, and as you suggest, we sent out to every current pensioner, and I think from memory we received about 2 responses. So this is really about, despite our best efforts, we're not hearing much from the membership. And the question now is, what else and what other avenues could we deploy? And we can review it again in a year's time, because if we still don't make inroads, then we'll need to think again. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any more hands up, Katie? No.
No, there are no more hands, Chairman.
Okay. Members, thank you for all those matters arising. Can we now ask you to note those minutes?
Agreed.
Agreed. Those minutes with all the matters arising from them, which have all been noted as well. Item 7 on the agenda is wearing your governance hat, members of the panel and board, is exit payment reforms. This is an interesting, somewhat complicated subject, but I'm going to ask Andrew Lowe to introduce it.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman. Yes, as you say, a rather complicated matter. So this involves the new Public Sector Exit Payment Regulations 2020, which came into force on the 4th November, and their impact on both the Administration Authority, employers and members, and of course, particularly for us, the LGPS. I'll just try and walk you through the report because there are a few issues to pick up. So if I just start with paragraph 4, so you'll be aware, hopefully, of the current LGPS entitlement. So members who leave on the grounds of redundancy or business efficiency over the age of 55 are currently entitled to an immediate payment of their unreduced benefits. And you'll also be aware that employers have to pay a strain charge in those circumstances. So the public sector exit regulations bring in a limit from the 4th November on the total amount of an exit package that an employee can receive, and that exit package is limited to 95k. The important part from your perspective will be that the 95k includes the payment of any strain charge payable by an employer. And as you'll be aware, strain charges can be significant and can therefore enable an employee to trip that 95k exit. So the LGPS regs are not currently in line with the exit regulations, and so the LGPS regs need to be updated. There's a current consultation on those new regulations, but they don't close until the 18th December 2020. This means at the current time we have a conflict between what the LGPS regulations say and what the exit payment regulations say. So the exit payment regulations limit due to that 95k cap, but the LGPS regulations still allow for fully unreduced pension, hence the conflict. Moving through to kind of paragraph 9, since the regulations came into force, there's been clear advice from the government, from the Minister, Luke Hall, and the government recommends that a capped member should only receive a fully actuarial reduced pension or deferred pension, together with a cash alternative payment. On the other hand, SAB has advised the funds to take a slightly different course of action, where they do pay the reduced or deferred pension, but they don't make the cash payment up to the 95k limit. And paragraph 10 sets out the reasons behind SAB's more cautious approach. However, for funds like ourselves, that leaves us with a bit of a dilemma, as we have conflicting advice from both the government and SAB. So it's for that purpose that we have, together with colleagues across the access pool, I think all 11 access authorities took part. So paragraph 11, we have commissioned advice from Squire Patton Boggs to give us advice as to how to proceed in the interim period. That advice should be finalised shortly, but in the meantime, paragraph 12, we have advised our employers that if they're subject to the exit payment regulations and they have a case where the cap is to be breached, that we will not process that until such time as we receive that advice and know how to proceed. In the meantime, we'll continue to produce estimates for redundancies and business efficiency retirements, but we'll make it clear that they reflect the existing regulations and therefore may be quickly out of date. Another just important note is paragraph 15, which is at the current time, we don't have any cases that we're aware of that at the present time would breach the cap. And so there are no difficulties as we speak. Paragraph 16, again, just for your awareness, whilst the regulations have come in, we are aware of a number of potential challenges to the regs, and we set out there that the BMA, Unison, GMB, Local Government and Solace have all made applications for judicial review. I'll pause there, Chairman, just to say that we await the advice from Squires Patton Boggs, and on receipt that Caroline, as Director of Corporate Services, will implement the least risky approach for the fund. But I'll pause and open for questions.
Well, thank you very much. Very good report from our head of pensions there. For those of you who don't know Squire Patton Boggs, I would say that they are definitely one of the leading legal firms specialising in the LGPS, and I have great confidence personally in their advice. But thank you very much for that, Andrew. You've made quite a complicated subject seem relatively simple, if I may say so.
Thank you.
A clear conflict which others are jumping into between government and the Scheme Advisory Board. It seems what you're suggesting is a prudent way forward. Members, hands up. I see Councillor Corkery has his hand up. Councillor Corkery.
Thank you, Chair. I wondered if we could just be given some idea on how widespread the implications of this are if they do get put into the scheme rules. And I guess what I'm asking by that is, what is it only the highest earners that are potentially going to be impacted by this? Or, I mean, taking into account the strain charges, could it be have a more widespread effect on people maybe on kind of middle incomes who have worked in local government for a significant period of time?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Corkery. Yeah, I think your point is well made. This doesn't just impact high earners, and this current part of the exit regs, the 95k part, can of course impact people lower down the salary scales, because it's the combination of the total exit package, which could include the redundancy and the strain cost. And before, in terms of the consultation, prior to the regs coming in, these were good points that we made on behalf of the pension fund to the consultation.
Thank you very much. I think Dr. Bartle, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Andrew. That was really, really helpful. I have a question as a university employer. We were quite excited to see this reform. We thought it was a really positive way forward. But our understanding is that universities and other similar tier 3 bodies can't access at the moment from looking at the details. At the employers meeting, Alison Murray referred to there possibly being a phase 2 of this reform, which might bring in employers such as ourselves. Are you aware of any more information on that?
Not specifically, no. If she was talking in relation to the 95k cap, no, I'm not aware of that. If she was talking more generally about the extension to the exit regulation requirements, certainly they are out for consultation, and there will be a phase 2 in that regard, which will bring in further rules around the exits, which will involve people paying their statutory redundancy pay towards the strain cost. But again, I'm not 100% sure whether that applies to universities.
I mean, at the moment it doesn't. We're not on the very, very long list of bodies that can take advantage of it, which is quite disappointing. It is just whether you heard anything in discussions about a possible move on it. Or...
No, not beyond what Alison intimated.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Perhaps, Andrew, if we do hear anything, we certainly let Dr. Bartle know as soon as we hear something, perhaps.
Of course, yeah, we will communicate with all fund employers in due course, Chairman.
That would be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Members, I can't see any more hands up. So if that is the case, if there are any more points on this paper, I think it is a prudent course of action. In which case, members, we are asked to note that paper. Can I take it that is noted?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you very much indeed. Members, I'm now going to move under item 8, the exclusion of the press and the public under paragraph 3, part 1, schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, in that the public interest in maintaining exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information for the reasons set out in the exempt minutes. Members, would you agree to pass that motion?
Agreed, Chairman.
Agreed.
Thank you. We'll now move on to item 9. I'm sorry, I must ask for the webcast now to be ended, Katie.
That's very good, Chairman.